This will be one of the quick videos. This is all about the science of sound. It's just a quick overview and description of how sound works, and it might influence and inspire some of your dancing and some of the moves if you understand how sound works. First thing you need to just understand is that sound is like water. So when you go into a room, anything that virtually anything that water would be absorbed into or stick to, sound will go into. And anything that water will bounce off of, sound should bounce off of. This is one of the reasons that, I was raised in the 80s a little bit, but most restaurants back then had carpets, and you could actually hear in restaurants when you were talking with each other. A lot of restaurants nowadays, and houses for that matter, for aesthetics and for cleanliness, because it's easier to clean hard floors and tile and stuff, use hard surfaces. Of course, water, though, is not going to get absorbed into a hard surface like it would a carpet. Neither will sound, for that matter. This is why if you're out at most restaurants, you notice how loud it is, like a cafeteria back in school, and it's because there's nothing there to suck up the sound. So anything like that you put on walls, not that these are that great because I don't have a full wall of it, but anything that you have on a wall that will suck up sound, right there. And anything that you have that's going to bounce sound off, like that metal thing back there, will bounce sound around the room. Sometimes you want the sound to bounce, and sometimes you don't. You want a nice crisp sound where there's no reverb or echo that's created. So I'm sure some of you have taken a rubber band before and plucked it. Now, the tighter you pull, the faster the rubber band will bounce. The looser you pull, the slower the rubber band will bounce. It's still moving pretty fast, but you can actually, if I go a little slower, you can see the rubber band move. See a little wave, and it actually goes whoa, whoa, whoa. Each time it moves up and then down is a wave. And the tighter you pull, the more frequent there are waves. The looser you pull, the less frequent. The less frequent the waves, the lower the pitch is. Down low. Probably can't hear that too well, but the more frequent the waves are, the higher the pitch is. Okay? A guitar is a brilliant way to explain how sound works. When you pluck a string, the string's vibrating. You probably cannot see it, but the string's actually creating waves. And this string goes from here to all the way up to here. All right? Right up about here. Okay? If you take a string and you cut it in half, you get the same note. Let's say this whole string's vibrating. I'm going to cut it in half right here. And only from here to here is it going to vibrate. And it's the same pitch, just an octave higher. So physics is actually physics is exactly what we're using here with music. We are actually creating sound waves and using the frequency of those waves to change pitches. The more tight the wave is, the higher the pitch will be, and the looser the wave is, the lower the pitch will be. Same thing with how aggressive the wave is. If the wave's really aggressive, you pluck that guitar or that string really hard, the wave is going to also go really big. And the bigger it is, the louder it is. And as we talked about dynamics, loud, like forte, it's going to be loud. And if you pluck it gently, you're going to have a smaller wave, okay? And a smaller wave will be softer, or piano, as in we talked about dynamics. So you can take and pull really tight and pluck really gently. Because you're pulling really tight, you're going to have a high pitch, but a low volume, or decibel, which we'll talk about, okay? Low volume because you plucked it gently, but it's pulled really tight, so it's going to sound high. If I relax the string and pull, it's going to be a low note. But if I pluck it gently and loose, it's going to be a low note and a low pitch, low volume. But if I leave it relaxed, it's still going to be a low pitch, but if I yank it, then that wave is going to be more aggressive and it's going to be louder. Okay, so the bigger the wave is, the louder the sound. The smaller the wave is, the softer the sound. The more frequent the waves are, the higher the pitch. The less frequent the waves are, the lower the pitch. That's it. So frequency and pitch are not quite the same thing, but depending on how you look at it, they are. Frequency is the wave and how frequent it is, like we just discussed, but frequencies are not always just used in sound. Light has waves. I don't know much about this stuff, so this is just a quick little overview of the science of sound, but I'm sure like microwaves or phones, all that other stuff, anything that creates a wave has a frequency. When it comes to sound, that frequency is what we describe as pitch. You can hear a high, you can hear a low, you can hear a middle. We describe pitch in those terms. But the frequency is actually the number of waves that pass a certain point within like a second. This has a little bit to do with dynamics, like we talked about earlier, how loud or soft a tone is. But it's measured in decibels. Decibels, or the abbreviation is dB or some dBA, depending on how you look at it, but dB is decibels. This is really important for all you that like to listen to music really loud or go to concerts with the speaker blasting next to you. Decibels, I'll put up a little chart here. Decibels can actually be measured, and it's on a range, and it can go considerably high. This one I'm actually going to show just goes from about 10 decibels up to 160. And just take a look at this. You can also Google and look up some charts like this. But hearing loss, okay, or like damage to your ear starts at 70 decibels. Now, the common just conversation, like people talking, is 60. So technically, if somebody was yelling at you and they do it for a long period of time, they're actually slowly causing damage to your ear, which over a long period of time will lead to hearing loss. If you're listening to something that's 120 decibels, that will cause immediate harm to your ear. 120 decibels would be things like, a lot of power tools and some like chainsaws or things like that. Although this one actually says that this chainsaw's 110, but definitely jet engines. You boost up those speakers loud enough and the amps outside, or not even outside, just in your car, you are causing immediate harm to your ears. So the big thing I just want you to remember is that your conversation is at 60 decibels. That's about where we talk. So the final thing we're going to talk about is the sound envelope. Sound travels, like we said, like it does, like it's like water, the way it travels. It's a wave, but depending on what the sound is traveling through, it might create a reverberating effect or resonance. It will sing longer just because of the surface or the object that the sound is bouncing back and forth in. This can be described with the sound envelope. I'll put up this little picture right here. And what you see is that, for example, if you were to hit something like even maybe a glass, okay? See, I hit it once, but it keeps singing. Now it fades, but, okay, I've only hit it once, and yet it keeps singing. Compared to like a pillow, or a chair. If you hit a chair, you hit it once and no more sound, okay? So this image right here of the sound envelope will help describe this. Up at the front, you see something called attack. Not all sounds have attack, okay? But most do if it's going to resonate. And the attack is the initial attack in order to be able to create resonance. So the sound of my fingernail is the attack. That tiny little jump right there is the sound of my fingernail, and it's actually pretty loud. Louder, actually, than the glass is going to ring. Now, when I let go of the glass, after I flick it, you still, if you listen closely, will be able to hear my fingernail, but also then you're just going to hear that singing, the resonance, the sustain of the sound, okay? Also, because this glass is only a certain size, after I flick it, okay, then right away it starts to sustain, but it also then starts to release. It starts to fade and go away. Decibels going down until decibel is 0 and the sound is completely gone. So we're going to go and play a little, I'm going to go and put up a few little questions, and I want then you to think about if it has strong resonance or no resonance. A tree trunk. Is it going to resonate once you hit it, or is there going to be no resonance once you hit it? That's right, no resonance. That's a weird tree if it does start singing. How about a can of soda? If you flick a can of soda, is the sound of you flicking it going to sing and resonate, or is it going to die? Well, that's the college question. Then should be a little bit about, depends on what's inside the soda. Because, of course, if it's filled with a liquid, it should die right away, okay? However, there might be a very tiny resonance if you were to flick an empty can. You'll hear the tap, and then you might hear for a split second the sound bouncing back and forth in the empty can, okay? We'd have to try that one. How about a cymbal? Like on a drum, cymbal, if you hit it. Yes, big resonance. And the harder you hit it, the louder it's going to sing and the longer it's going to resonate. Okay? We did pillow. How about if you just bump your chest? That's right. No resonance, hopefully. What if you're the Tin Man and you bump your chest? Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. Hope you really know what I'm talking about. That's right. You bump his chest and it's going to resonate, okay? How about skipping a stone across a pool? Any resonance? No. The water will absorb the sound? None. But skipping a stone across the water and you're in a cave. That's right. The sound actually then would reverberate through the cave of its skipping, and you'd hear a little bit of resonance. That's pretty much what all there is to it. Think about things that are typically hollow and something that will allow the sound wave to bounce back and forth. And as it travels back and forth, it gets weaker and weaker and it might fade. But then think about what kind of things might you be able to hit and it will continue to resonate, okay, for a longer period of time. Told you, just a quick video on the science of sound. There's plenty of other stuff out there that you can look at on YouTube or even online that go way more depth, and it's brilliant stuff out there. I mean, sound is the physics of the world that we live in. That's the audio part, of course, is what we hear. And to me, the more you understand it, even more than I do, and I don't understand it that much, but if you understand it more, it should reflect in your dance then as well. There's probably some cool little nuances you could pick up and display to us, because everything I just described to you was through my words and through sound, but you have the opportunity to do it through what we see. Good luck.